Hello and welcome back. And that is right. Today I want to talk about something for me that is genuinely exciting. I know I don't have a lot going on in my life, but this isn't about me. This is about this. This is an M.2 to Oculink adapter. But moreover, this is about £5. I've looked around online, and depending on your currency of choice, your delivery and more, you're looking at somewhere between 5 to 10 nicker to add Oculink to your mini PC, to your NAS, to your pretty much anything that has an M.2 pot. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why. We're going to talk about what it can do. We're going to talk about what it can't do, what the alternatives are in the market, and whether this is worth your 5 to 10 nicker upgrade. But let's crack straight on. Probably the biggest question straight away for a number of you is, why on earth would you add Oculink to your system? And well, ultimately, it won't come as a big surprise. Speed, or bandwidth to be more precise. It opens a channel externally on systems that today is currently not available. If you look at the connections on most computers, and we can look at, say, this mini PC here, this one from B-Link, it's got an Intel processor inside. It's Gen 4 architecture, pretty snazzy, right? And on the rear, it's got USB type A ports there. Those are 10 gig USB. And on the front, we've got a USB-C. Now, this could have been a Thunderbolt device. Could have had Thunderbolt or USB type C, which would be a 40 gigabit connection, or 4 gigabytes per second total external bandwidth. Pretty sharp, right? Now, as good as that is, Oculink can provide 6.4 gigabits per second, or 6.4 gigabytes per second, or 64 gigabits per second. Not quite double, but the fact still remains it is a larger amount of bandwidth. However, it has to be said that although there are peripherals in the market like this one, this is the MGA1 from Minis Forum. This is a graphics card, a 7600 MT AMD graphics card with 8 gig of DDR5 VRAM. This is connected via Oculink. It's a docking station, in fact. It's got a bunch of connections. But Oculink on peripherals is actually a great deal more common than it is on client devices. Here's another great example. This is one from Ustar. This is the TBS4. This is a 4 NVMe expansion device. Again, connected via Oculink there. So there are ways and means that people are creating these accessories, but when it comes to laptops, when it comes to mini PCs, when it comes to NAS devices, or even micro portable PCs, the numbers are very small. I talked about it in my Minis Forum MGA1 video, and there's barely 25 or 30 different devices released in the whole of 2024. And once you go to the lifetime of Oculink, there's barely any. So that's why this adapter increases in appeal. For the sake of one of your M.2 slots, you can add one of these great connections. Now, a number of you are wondering about the speed of M.2, and that's a valid question as well. I touched it earlier on that this little B-Link device has got Gen 4 architecture there. It's got two M.2 NVMe slots inside the EQ here. Now, the EQ has got two Gen 4 times 4 slots there inside. That means that each one of them has a potential 8 gigabytes per second bandwidth to play with. And remember, this only needs 6.4 gigabytes or 64 gigabits per second bandwidth to reach full potential there. So there's no throttling there when it comes to the M.2 connection going inside the system. Now, today, there were ways and means like this one to add a PCIe output to your M.2 connection there. This is a Gen 4 one. This is about £12, and it adds M.2 Gen 4 times 4 to a PCIe physical times 16 slot, but of course it's a times 4 slot there. As good as that is, keep in mind that anything you attach to this, again, rather than using an Oculink port to attach another device, it's allowed you to skip a step and put PCIe. PCIe power is something you're going to have to consider there. Keep in mind that M.2 NVMe's at Gen 4 times 4 speed are going to give double that of Thunderbolt peripheral devices. Thunderbolt, again, running at 40 gigabits per second or 4 gigabytes per second there, are going to be less than the potential for Oculink here. So when it comes to systems like this one that don't have Oculink, that don't have Thunderbolt 4 or USB 4 connectivity, but do have Gen 4 architecture inside. These open the door to attaching an Oculink adapter like this and leveraging external edge hardware to really make the most and offload those more troublesome, in this case, graphical processes or higher end storage processes outside of the system without any compromises internally. But this, of course, leads to the next question. When you do connect a device via Oculink to an available M.2 NVMe slot internally, what are the performance benefits and how do they kind of lay out versus utilizing just a vanilla hardware in Gen 4 and not in Gen 4? So let's do this side by side. Number one, what we did is we set up this B-Link EQ device here with the Oculink adapter inside. We also did the same test, by the way, without the Oculink adapter inside. We connected this to this external graphics card, the one from Minisforum you mentioned earlier on, that 7600M MXT, I should say, external graphics card there. And we utilized a 3D Mark to get a good performance measure of what this system could do with and without the external graphics card there. Unsurprisingly, with the external graphics card connected via the Oculink to M.2 adapter, we saw massive performance increases, both in terms of frames per second and, of course, overall benchmarking scores. I'm not going to say that wasn't a surprise, but that is pretty much exactly what this was designed for. But the next question is, what if we took this Gen 4x4 adapter and we put it inside something a little bit more modest? For those of you who recognize this, this is the N305 motherboard that we reviewed here on the channel a while ago. It's got 10 GBE, but that's not really the point here. It's a 150 to 200 NICA pre-attached CPU and MOBO ITX bundle. This CPU inside is an 8-core CPU, but it's the N305 that's Gen 3 architecture and only has 9 lanes to play with. It also has no USB Type 4 connections, it has no Oculink connections, and more importantly, the 2 M.2 NVMe slots inside are Gen 3 times 1 speed. That is a potential maximum 1 gigabytes per second transmission there. Realistically, less than that if you build in the friction there. So the 2 slots, we put our OS drive in one of them, and we installed the M.2 to Oculink adapter there with its weird rubbery cable. Now, with that in mind, what did we see? Well, first and foremost, trying to run the same graphical benchmark on this system using the native XE graphics before we attached the big graphics card was fruitless because it didn't have enough VRAM on the dedicated integrated graphics with that CPU to even run the test. So even at that point, when we did attach the Minisforum external graphics card via the Oculink, via the M.2 adapter, we already knew it was going to be a better performance because it could still utilize that. But there was still the bottleneck there in the middle of the 3x1 in between them. But nevertheless, when we did run our test, it became abundantly clear that even connecting this adapter into a 3x1 slot still allowed us to leverage the external graphics card significantly, and therefore added up for me to this still being, even in more modest setups like this one, giving you a huge ability to scale up towards better processes and better graphical capabilities. But keep in mind that unlike when we were talking about the Gen 4 architecture one here, when we connected the adapter into a x4x4 slot there, when it comes to more modest systems like this, you really are going to be throttled in at that 3x1 speed there in the middle. And more importantly, in that scenario, that's when I think an adapter like the direct M.2 to PCIe slot will probably be better for you, because many of the processes you're going to try and run on the Oculink at 64 gigabit are just going to be completely hampered by that 3x1 speed there. So again, 1 gigabytes per second and just that 1000 megs, again, realistically, just over 850 meg there. Overall, I can't fault this. I cannot fault this adapter. As soon as I bought it for this meager amount that it cost, a few cups of coffee, I knew I'd have some fun with it. But I'll say right now, as an upgrade, it's definitely one for those of you that are looking for direct Oculink accessories on your system that may lack this connection right now. And as 2025 rolls on, Oculink is going to appear in more devices because currently, until Thunderbolt 5 comes along, Oculink provides the greatest external bandwidth for a connection other than taking advantage of traditional Thunderbolt, which is slower and the status quo. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. This video is probably going out at the end of 2024, early 2025, just before CES. But when I get back, I am going to be testing this out on a different range of devices, particularly utilizing it in conjunction with things like TrueNAS, Unraid, and Proxmox. We already know that the Minis forum here works with Proxmox. We couldn't really get it to work in Unraid or TrueNAS, but it's going to be interesting to see that if we use an adapter in the middle, whether there's something we can scale up. But let me know other tests that you want to see in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. There'll be links in the description to where you can get hold of this yourself. I'll link to a few different options. Keep in mind, one, you should always opt for the Gen 4 version because there are weirdly some Gen 3 versions out there. But more importantly, you don't have to get one with the ribbon cable pre-attached. You can get ones with the Oculink directly on the M.2. But factor in that when you are going to filter this into more compact systems like this one, that this ribbon is a great deal easier to hide inside that chassis coming out, whereas Oculink cables are generally just that wee bit fatter. So I do recommend going for the ribbon cable version. But again, let me know what else you want to see from this in the comments. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.